Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 20th. It's Inauguration Day, so I'm just sitting back, hoping we can have a peaceful day. Kind of avoiding the news. I figure my mom or my dad will tell me if we started to tear each other apart, or I'll see it outside my window. Holding out hope that humanity will prevail. And that whatever change we seek, we can do so in a peaceful way. Just gonna hold space for whatever happens. That's all I can do. I was thinking yesterday, I've been spending a lot of time listening to Alan Watts. He's a philosopher known for talking about Taoism and Zen and Hinduism, bringing it to the US, to the West, making it more popular in like the 60s and 70s. And I've listened to him for years. His voice helps me fall asleep. Have to be really present to take in what he's saying. And it got me really thinking about the concept of free will. So, yesterday we were talking about force versus going with the flow of life. And it's something as a social psychologist, and just psychologists in general, we think a lot about. You know, people say, is it nature versus nurture, right? Do my genes determine? Do they predetermine my destiny and what will be? In some ways, in many ways, personality psychology is this way. If I have these type of behavioral or personality traits, or even this kind of attachment style as a child, you know, am I more likely to end up in this way or that way? More likely to succeed in my career, less likely to be a violent criminal, that kind of thing. Even astrology is like that. It's pretty deterministic. You know, the stars and the planets were in this position when you were born, and that's going to influence, you know, your trajectory and how you show up in the world. So that's kind of a destiny view of things, I guess. And even in social psychology, you know, we look at the average, you know, use statistics to say, how does this type of person behave in this type of situation? At least it starts to take some of the situation into play. But the situation still dictates what the person does. So for instance, if I'm holding a warm cup of coffee and rating the kindness of the experimenter that just handed me this warm cup of coffee, I'm more likely to rate that experimenter as a warm, kind, approachable person versus if they handed me a cold cup of coffee. Interesting. So that's, again, the situation eliciting a certain response. Determination versus a choice or free will. Even so we're going back, nature versus nurture, looking at nurture. How does your environment play a role, especially as an early child? The environment that we're raised in, whether it's chaotic or nurturing or enriching, and how that plays out in our future actions and emotional state and desires and aptitudes for learning and connection. And you can even look at the environment in which you were grown and conceived, in the womb. What kind of hormones and, chemicals are floating around in your environment? What was your mother eating? What kind of stress was she experiencing? What kind of toxins was she exposed to? There's not much room for free will in a lot of these scenarios that I can see. Like, more so within the nurture paradigm. Sorry, my battery just told me it was low. Right? Because to some extent I can choose what environments and situations I'm in. I can choose in some instances what toxins I'm exposed to. So there's a lot of deterministic in our culture. And on the other hand, in what we're reading in self-help literature, a lot of times, a lot of even what we're taught in school is, we have the power to choose, to seemingly from nothing, my own volition, choose whatever it is that I want to do next, how I want to behave, how I want to move forth in the world. And, I used to just believe, well, it's easy to waver in between this idea of like, yes, I can try to tune in to my truest self, whoever that is, and choose from that place and act according to that place and turn down the noise. And there's always the groundwork of all of the factors I've already talked about, of our environment and how we were raised, and even our ancestors, which I didn't talk about, and our environments. How do we parse out what we're choosing from all of those factors? How do we choose from nothing, from this space of nothing? Does free will exist? And this is a question I've thought about a long time, and sometimes it feels like, well, what the hell? If I don't have any choice really in this matter, if this is all just the illusion of choice, then I'll just let myself get carried along the stream, right? And in all the years I've listened to Alan Watts, he said something yesterday in one of the talks I was listening to that I'd never heard him say that made a lot of sense. Perhaps I'd heard him before, but I probably was falling asleep to it. And he said, with regards to free will versus predeterminism, he says, asking that question misses the point. Because it's asking, are you getting kicked around by life, or are you kicking life around? Which one is it? And it's beside the point, because you are life. You are the universe. You are completely interconnected with all that is. So to say that you have power over something else, or it has power over you, completely misses that perspective. That you're one with all of it. Does that make sense? Because to me, it was a major paradigm shift. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Regardless of the why and the meaning behind what we do, which I've been obsessed with for as long as I can remember. Why am I doing this? You're doing it because you're doing it. I heard once in type of education, it's called the Landmark Forum, that humans are meaning-making machines. We look for meaning in everything. There's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful. We look for the depths and the layers within everything, especially me. I'm a digger. And sometimes it's so simple. It can be deep and simple at the same time to realize that you're just doing something because you're doing it. You are the universe living out and experiencing itself at any given moment. You are in control, and at the same time, just this conduit of allowance. And that's a really comforting and empowering notion to me. Even if I just get glimpses of it here and there. Because my personality, my ego, my identity sees itself as separate. And that's by design, I believe. Because how else do I experience everything? I don't realize, if I still not sure how to put words around this. And I think I've talked about this, and I know I talked about this in past posts about, separate as an essential component and feeling to help us experience the world around us. And can also be when we forget our oneness, when we are completely absorbed in our identity, we can forget. And that's when we try to force, and that's when suffering happens. And suffering isn't a bad thing. It's part of all of this as well. Of course, I look for, as a meaning-making machine, look for the meaning beneath this suffering. And since there is no meaning, the joy is we get to make up whatever meaning we want. So long as it feels honest to us. So long as we feel like we're not burying something down or being untrue to ourselves. I think that's all for today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. I love you.